absolute star.
I am on.
He's taken that quite well, actually, hasn't he?
Yeah. Should I have favourites? But you do. It's like your own kids.
You can't have favourites. And he didn't look like he was forced into a lot of those positive remarks. So
Just
you know that it's...
rolls off the tongue.
In this episode of the Do Gooders podcast, we speak to Tom and Jack, care leaver and caregiver. We talk to them about what it's like to be in care and also what it's like to look after people leaving care.
I wanted to start off by just understanding a little bit more about how you got into working with people like Jack in the first place.
Well, I've been working in children's services in different roles, Shropshire Council, for about 12 years now. And prior to that, I worked in residential childcare. So I've worked around children and young people for, about 16 years now. But during that time, I think, I was often spent a lot of time working with parents, but I think the main passion was sort of creating and making those relationships with the young people I work with, like young Jack, and actually establishing those relationships and finding out, all about them and, how we can work together and sort of move them on into their independence, really. And I've been doing that now for the last 5 years now in the leaving care team. So I've been working with sort of 18 to 25-year-olds now during that time. Jack being one of them, absolute star.
I am on. The best one out of them all.
He's taken that quite well, actually, hasn't he? Yeah.
He is, yeah.
I do take it well.
He's like, I don't think... Should I have favourites? But you do. It's like your own kids,
You can't have favourites.
You know you have favourites.
Yeah, I thought that's what I didn't. Yeah, I think you said that about. I'm sure you just said it about Jack. But So tell me. So obviously you have to build this relationship. So tell me a bit more about how does that relationship work, Jack?
How do I explain it? So, when did I first meet you? How old was I when I first met you? I was young when I was about 15, 16 maybe.
Yeah, but when you came over to the team, it would have been 18, wasn't it? So I started working with you in the leaving care team at 18 after you'd come out of Resi.
It was building a bond, really, wasn't it, at first, because you didn't know me and I didn't know you, so I could have been anyone, you could have been anyone. So it was just, how do I explain, what was our first session like? I can't remember, but how do I explain it properly? You know what I'm trying to say, don't you?
Well, I'll help you there.
Break it down for me, please.
I think one of the first memories I have of you was coming round to your house and you were just lying on the sofa with a sleeping bag over your head, and I was just there going, come on, and you wouldn't talk to me, and I was relentless until you actually got up, and then I got you out of the house, and then we sort of meted more regularly then. I was just sort of consistently pecking your head, basically, wasn't I?
It was good you did though, weren't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, it just carried on from there, really. We kept meeting each other, we kept doing, did a lot of stuff together, we've been biking and stuff like that. Just activities to get me out, really, innit? And then talk to me about my personal situation and how I'm getting on, really. Progressing through, obviously, life at 15, 16, 17. It was just hard going from care and then going into shared accommodation, wasn't it, at first? Yeah. And then after that, it was finding a place for me to live independently. And obviously Tom was there through it all. And that was it, really. Isn't it?
Yeah. And I think that's this is a really sort of good point that, prior to being 18, you're in Resi and stuff, and things are sort of put on a plate for you, aren't they? Everything's done for you. And then we call it like a cliff edge at like 18. And it's like, the stark reality of like, I'm on my own now. Yeah. Like, I've got it like 2 days ago, I didn't have to be sort of independent and not thinking about my own place. Then it's like bang, isn't it? Remember when we first got that flat, it was just like, right, how are we going to work this out?
It's good having people like you there, though, because it's like, well, if you don't have many close family members or anyone to turn to, it's always someone, you're someone there to talk to, and you're like another figure to look up to help me and guide me. Do you know what I mean? So, like, with bills and jobs and stuff like that, at that age, I didn't really want to, I was getting used to it all. But then obviously with your help and with everyone else's help from the team and stuff like that, it just began to get easier because, like you said, I had it on a plate in Resi, really, didn't I?
If you'd like to do good and want to get in touch with one of our guests or an organisation they're involved with, then look out in the information below the podcast or get in touch.
I like it now. I'm more independent now. So it's, it's good.
And how do you, so that relationship and that help, it obviously sounds like it's sort of integral to that journey, to doing it. Because tell me a bit about how you feel. How do you feel different coming from where you've come from?
Yeah.
And how do you feel like, does that fitting in or things like that? Tell me, are there any instances where you've sort of felt, that sort of separation from everybody else?
Yeah and no, because sometimes when you're in care, you always feel like everything's against you, but it's not. They're trying to help you. But when you're young and you're just in that kind of mind frame, it's all about you and everything you say is right. But then when people are actually there trying to help you and guide you towards the right path, you start to see the light when you get older. But yeah, I did feel I wouldn't say left out, but I felt like a black sheep, really, because everyone's different though in that residential. There's people now that I see probably hasn't progressed as much as me, which is sad to see, but I think it's all about building a bond with, like you say, you or someone else like Marie, for example. It's just all about building a bond, and if you can't really get on, it's just building how do I say it? It's like a bridge between both of us. You can't get to me and I can't get to you. It just needs to be smooth if you want to get somewhere. So, because I couldn't do it on my own. You couldn't. You keep telling me and trying to get me up at 15, 16. You know what I mean?
Did you ever, when you were in school and things, and like when people were, professionals coming to see you and stuff, do you think there was like any sort of stigma around sort of having those people in?
I don't know, really. I didn't really want to see people like that. No. I just wanted to keep myself to myself and just be me. But maybe I should have engaged a bit more. I don't know. There's some things I look at and think, maybe I should have done that, maybe I should have done that. Like today. What if I didn't do this today then? I would have thought about it and I probably would have banged onto it.
It would have been a big regret, I think.
The world needs do-gooders. So if you can help in some way, don't hesitate. Get doing good. Now, back to the pod.
That's a good point. How do you then go about building that bridge between you and, a young person like Jack? So what about you makes it successful? Because obviously he's done it with you.
Yeah. And I suppose it's a bit like being a bit of a social comedian, really, because everyone's like, every young person I work with is different, and it's like, I suppose it's trying to find that sort of niche in with them and sort of knowing how to sort of behave with them, listening, sort of being interested in what they're in, really, is a big in.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not about me or what work I'm doing initially, because if I just come in and say, right, this is my role, we're doing a pathway plan and this is where you got to be, it's like, scrap all that. It's like straight in and find those sort of a bit of a common thread around things that we can bond over, really, and I can get interested. And then it's more of a, it's a two-way thing as well, isn't it? After a while, it's letting that person in, to me as well, so that can be reciprocated, and it's a form of trusting relationship, really, and one that's sort of sound and quite fun, and have some, makes things interesting as well, doesn't it? Along the way, and just being consistent, really. If I sort of, if I got a setback or a F off or a I'm not bothered, I don't want to do that. If I just took that as literal, it would be very much, we wouldn't get much done.
It's good though that you don't take it as literal, because it's the headspace that the say kids now, that the kids are in then, because they're going through. In Resi, they're going through all that. They can't see who they're seeing, and they're going through their battles their own, really. it's good that you don't take it literal because, like you said, it's just all about connecting with someone and being interested in what they're interested in. So then, ultimately, it's like this now.
And it's that consistency, isn't it? Because I mean, you get people that sort of push you back, and you know, throughout their own upbringing, they know that if they push that person off, then they won't come back to sort of bug them, or they're fearful of that rejection if they push them away once. So that's why it's sort of being sort of relentless, really. But also, I suppose it's, you know, you'll have, you know, there has been times where I've had to turn around to you and say, you know, that's not right.
You
or,
have.
You know, be quite open and honest about some of the decisions you've made, and you know, sort of get you thinking about how you might sort of want to change those or address things differently. So it's that respect as well as, you know, the relationship. It's giving good, solid sort of information and advice as well, isn't it? That, you know, you can take on board.
So it's a kind of, it's a very particular role, isn't it? It's quite, and it's obviously an important role.
Yeah.
But it's a kind of a hybrid. It feels like is it sort of like a hybrid role? You know, because you're not a family member, you're not, but in a way what do you think, Jack? Does that
I wouldn't say you have to act like one, but you do in a way. Do you know what I mean? When you become closer anyway, because at first you're just someone who's trying to get involved into my life and when I'm a kid, that's all I think, you're trying to dictate to me what's right. But it's not. You're trying to guide me along the right path, because I'm in this residential for a reason, and it's because obviously I haven't made the right choices. And I think it'll benefit you a lot if you are able to break that barrier with someone, and then it just comes smooth and it just comes naturally. Like, you can just ring me one day, well, you want to do something? Yeah, if not, no. But sometimes if we didn't become, how do I say it? If you didn't break that barrier at the start, if you weren't consistent, if you weren't trying to get me out of bed, for example, then maybe I'll just ignore your call. But obviously I've been seeing you for how long now? At least 5 years.
That look is like too long.
Too long. It's been at least 5 years, hasn't it?
Yeah.
But
and I suppose,
it's just about consistency. That's it.
Yeah.
You've got where you needed to be with me, because I could have just told you to F off that when you come to my mum's.
I suppose it's that, you know, that positive role model that's sometimes lacking as well, isn't it? So I've got to try and fill those shoes, which is a massive responsibility, but also an honour that I can have that sort of influence and being allowed into your life as well.
Especially with me, I didn't really have anyone to look up to anyway. So it's like, in that care system or in that residential system, I'm trying to look up to people who share interests with me, like some of the care workers, because some of them, they were just there to do their job. Some people would connect with the kids, you know what I mean? There was only probably one or two that would, and then obviously you come along when we get a bit older.
If you're a do-gooder or know someone who is, and would like to come and speak to us on the podcast, get in touch. Now, back to the pod.
Is there anything part of that journey and that system that you're in? Because obviously you're talking about, you know, that's your unique view of what's happened. Is there any part of that structure that you feel like, you know, needs sort of changing? Or is there anything that you would change about that?
I wouldn't say so. Just if you start, I'm just saying, as if you're a kid starting out, I'd just say engage, to be honest, because it'll probably be the best for you. If I didn't engage, I don't know where I'd be, to be honest. Realistically, I'd probably be where I was at 15. Let's be honest. It's just about trying to change yourself, and you've got to find it within yourself. Yeah, you might not want to do something, but it's probably for the greater good, really, isn't it? Like, I could have done so many things differently, but I'm glad I did them.
Could I have done anything different?
Not really. You did what you could. You were consistent with me, even when I wasn't the greatest at the start, and you were trying to drag me out of bed. You still stayed consistent, and then you still built that bond with me. So it's just breaking barriers. it's going to be hard at the start for someone like you when you don't know me and I don't know you. I'm not going to engage with you straight away, and you're obviously not going to break the seal straight away, because like me and you now, we're more friendly than we were. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't say I can call you like a friend, but I can speak to you like my friend. If you know what I mean.
No, it's nice to know. I think that, you know, he's close to me now, so we don't work on a regular basis, but you know, it's nice to hear, to think that, you know, if you needed anything or just sort of tell me about, you know, achievement, you can still give us a shout, and I need a hand to do things like that.
Yeah, exactly. You can just rope him in, basically.
Absolutely.
So how do you deal with then, because obviously you're going to get emotionally connected. So how do you deal with that because you're a dad?
Yeah.
You know, and
That's a good
you're going to go
question.
home. So at the end of the day, so, you know, how does that work? What are there challenges around that?
Yeah. I mean, it is really difficult because, you know, I often ask myself when I'm working with young people, would that be good enough for my own children? And I often have to turn around and go, well, no, it's not. And that's a real frustration. That's because, you know, I suppose I'm a corporate parent, and there's barriers and there's sort of around sort of policy and funding and things. So it is really frustrating when, you know, especially when there's things like, you know, for instance, something just as simple as sort of helping people out of like driving lessons or something like that. That could be, you know, that frustrates me. But then, you know, seeing the situation that some young people are in, and, you know, it's upsetting. But I guess I'm doing a better job if I come back the next day and face it head on again and keep going, rather than just sort of shutting down and thinking it's too much for me. I'm better used to being more positive, and rather than those things wearing me down. So I suppose that's sort of how I try and keep a positive spin on and get back at it.
Is there any particular, you know, is there examples of times when it's, you know, it's become quite, have you have sort of like burnout, or is there, you know, because you've been involved in this for quite a long time, so.
Yeah, not really. I finish work and then go back to absolute chaos. So it's perhaps my body. I do grind my teeth in the night, so maybe it all subconsciously sort of comes up. But no, I don't. I don't think so. You know, although there is some really sort of tricky situations that the young people are in, and it's really upsetting to see. But I think it's, you know, I hope as well. You can't think of the here and now. It's like, you know, hopefully, where is their situation going to improve in, you know, in the next week, next 6 months? So it's looking at those positive things as well. And seeing, so no burnout just yet.
And with you, Jack, do you think that you know, your unique view of the world and your upbringing, you know, is unique to you, as it is, you know, all of ours is, but yours is particularly unique, and you have unique challenges. Do you think that's influenced how you approach other people, and you know, if people are in trouble, or you know, doing, you know, giving something back or anything like that? Do you feel like it's part of you, or?
I think when you get older, you realise when you're older that it's not all what you thought it was when you were a kid. Because like when you're a kid, you don't listen to anyone when you're older. So from my point of view, I've been through a lot of stuff, like going through care system and stuff like that. And I think it shaped me as a person more than anything. I tried to stay more positive, and I prefer, like I said to you before, I prefer to give back to people because I've been in certain situations before that other people haven't been in. So I understand from certain perspectives. Like a lot of people won't understand what it's like going into care, or like with residential and stuff like that. Not many people understand, and I understand that everyone's view on life's different. But like you said, in my unique outlook, I think it's harder than people really understand. Like, yes, I did get it more on a plate at in care and at residential and stuff like that than I did at home, but it doesn't really. I wouldn't say it doesn't matter, but it doesn't make me feel like I should be given everything. You know what I mean? Because how do I explain it? When you come from a certain situation where you don't have much, you get older and you learn to. The words are on my tongue, but I can't get them out. You learn to appreciate things a bit more. Like now, I'm living on my own. I appreciate that because there's people that are my age who have been through the care system that probably failed along the way because they didn't engage. So obviously, I'm appreciative of everything they've done for me. But then I've also got to give myself a pat on the back because I've engaged and I've changed my ways. Do you know what I mean?
If you're a do-gooder or know someone who is and would like to come and speak to us on the podcast, get in touch. Now, back to the pod.
In a way, you've got to make those connections that you would just be given. You've got to try and stimulate, the awareness of that, I suppose, and just make sure that, people know that they could actually provide.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think if you don't know, then it's, it's like with anything in life, don't we just carry on as normal and, until we know that there is a need, we don't just think, we can help out there or we can do that. We often don't, I suppose we do seek to go and help, but sometimes it's good for it to be highlighted, isn't it?
So thanks, Tom and Jack, coming along together and telling us about your unique relationship. And I think we found out a lot about what it's like to be through the care system, but also what it's like to be able to work with Jack. I can see that you get a lot.
Nice. Yeah.
Both of you.
It's been nice actually. He's told me a few things that I didn't know about. So it's nice knowing that I do a good job anyway.
You do.
So,
you have done as well.
It's been a pleasure. No, it's been.
And he didn't look like he was forced into a lot of those positive remarks. So
just
that
rolls off the tongue.
You know that it's true. Thanks again.
No, cheers.
Thank you.
Great.
Cheers.
The world needs do-gooders. So if you can help in some way, don't hesitate. Get doing good. The Do Gooders podcast is brought to you by Good Thing,